I want you to remember anger. Sit for a moment and think. Recall the last time you were truly angry. Not frustrated, not upset, but furious and devoid of reason. The sound of your heartbeat thudding in your ears, your vision myopic and blinkered, your fingernails digging into the palms of your hands, your thoughts simultaneously focused and chaotic. That sensation, whether it was justified or not, was a psychological and physiological manifestation of your emotions superseding your mental threshold for control. It is both human and natural to feel anger, and the appropriate expression of it is vital to your mental health. But for many, appropriate expression is not found, and explosive violence, suppression, or deflection can prevent adequate coping mechanisms, and a cycle of mentally unhealthy behaviours can occur. So, as the intro plays, remember the last time you were truly angry. The universe of 40k is littered with countless horrors. It is a setting we love not for its joy or hope, but because we can revel and fantasize in the macabre and ultra-violent. Enjoyment of this is reasonable and understandable. We watch and read horror, we are fascinated with true crime, we engage in violent sports. There is no shame in finding escape in something as dark and inhospitable as 40k. Indeed, it can serve as a reminder that we are fortunate enough, for the most part, to be able to thrive instead of merely survive. Nevertheless, of all the terrors that lurk in the warp, I would argue that the horror of the Butcher's Nails is perhaps the most harrowing. It possesses neither the pseudo-religious art of the Chaos Gods, decay, torture, violence, betrayal, nor the bleak, hopeless dogmatism of the Imperium. It is not an impending doom nor an ancient cosmic threat. The horror of the Nails is something far more personal, something far more relatable, and something so much more tragic. I say the following with utmost awareness of the sensitivity required to make such observations, and do so equally aware that they are personal notes and almost certainly not the intent of those who write the narrative. Of all the disgusting crimes humanity has ever committed, and they are many, slavery is one of the most abhorrent, and yet the first terror of the Nails is this very thing, slavery. Admittedly, not in the same sense as that practiced in our own history, or even the literal slavery alluded to in 40k's lore, but a submission made without informed consent to an existence that will serve some superior entity. You may argue that those who take the Nails do so willingly, but that is why I mention informed consent. Within the internal logic of the 40k universe, the Butcher's Nails are archaeotech that is never fully understood. The original bearers did so in an effort to appease their failed Primarch, and any and all later victims of the Cruciamen have done so believing it will improve and enhance them, or bring them closer to the Blood God. But these are not facts, they are merely beliefs. The Nails are neither necessary nor sufficient to achieve either of these goals, and instead act as a means to dehumanize and de-individuate, turning Astartes into weapons, with no actual reward for loyalty. The next aspect of what makes the Nails truly horrific is the ceaseless wrath they perpetuate. At the introduction to this video, I asked you to remember a time you felt true anger, to remember the physiological and psychological state it put you in, the adrenaline rush, the shortness of breath, the blurred vision. Now, remember the feeling once the anger began to subside, the sheer exhaustion that a human can experience after true, unadulterated anger is almost unique as a side effect of a heightened emotion. The body spikes its hormonal releases, tightens muscles, reduces higher cognitive function, and 1,000 other quantifiable symptoms that effectively expend huge amounts of energy in a short span of time. This debt must be paid. It is also a contributing factor to why mismanagement of anger is a serious issue for an individual's mental health. Prolonged and frequent displays of anger will begin to cause lasting harm to an individual psychologically and neurologically. Imagine now that your episode of anger did not abate. The pounding of blood in your ears did not disappear moments after your goal was achieved, but instead its volume increased and its rhythm accelerated, demanding you solve yet another riddle, and then again, and again, and again. Even being transhuman in nature, excessive and repetitive psychological damage such as this would shatter your identity. It would not take long at all to forget all that you ever were and all that you ever hoped to be. Existence would become fleeting moments of confusion, half gasps of air between the churning waves of an endless ocean as it never tires in its oblivious effort to drown you. There are many forms and subgenres of fictional horror, and each attempts to subvert our psyche in a different way. Key ingredients, however, include helplessness, disorientation or feelings of being displaced, and the threat and realization of violence. Consider some of the greatest horror movies out there: Jaws, The Thing, Alien, The Exorcist. These and many others create a villain immensely more powerful than the protagonist, and often use the plot to further weaken or hinder the hero. They take place in inhospitable or unsafe environments, and pain and suffering are generously delivered. Likewise with the nails, the ignorant submission fulfills the requirement of helplessness. The erasure of self is a means to displace and disorient the protagonist, so what then of the threat or realization of violence? I mentioned The Thing a moment ago. This is perhaps one of the best examples of a subgenre called body horror. Typically, this genre deals with the torturous changes to the human body over time. Its relationship to the audience is that it can induce a state of abjection, an existential moment of clarity where you become acutely aware of the separation between yourself, your identity, your you-ness, and the physical world, not in a spiritual sense but in a very physical way. Body horror is a means to subvert the viewer's emotional state into one of discomfort by triggering their psychology to consider the brevity and immediacy of the very state of being alive. That is, life is fragile, dangerous, and finite. So then, the final nail. The body horror of the cruciamen is the process itself. Any form of surgery is in truth grotesque and violent. It is simply the act of intent that differentiates surgery from torture, to heal rather than to harm. But the process itself is empirically similar. To perform surgery on the brain, however, is an order of magnitude beyond. Any mistake or failure has a very real chance of brain death, or at best brain damage. History is rife with terrifying efforts to heal the brain, from lobotomies to electroconvulsive therapy, and not a single one of them is family friendly. So much less so is the process of attaching the nails to an Astartes. If you have not read the novel Angron, Slave of Nuceria, I strongly recommend you do. Its depiction of the surgery performed on Khorne is profound and heartbreaking. The history of the surgery itself is riddled with failure. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Astartes died beneath the tools of the apothecaries in attempts to mimic their primarch. It was not until Khorne that some success was found, but the process is grotesque and bleak. I'm going to read an interpretation of the surgery written by a Discord member, Lizard, which outlines the surgery. The process of implanting the nails is overall highly traumatic and crude, with machinery hooked into a heavily lobotomized brain. The first section is the lobotomy proper. Large parts of the frontal lobe are cut out, destroying most higher reasoning, while the emotional area grows into the vacant space, creating a more feral warrior. The amygdala also grows, heightening the fight or flight response. One side effect of this surgery is the damage of auditory receptors, causing tinnitus-like symptoms where the lobotomized subject often hears an irregular ticking and pain when combined with the chemicals flooded into the brain and pinging off the nociceptors can cause involuntary muscular spasms. The second part of the process is the mechanical implant. Tubes that hook up to supplies of biochemicals are implanted into several parts of the brain, brainstem and upper spinal cord, where they can be directly injected into the system. In addition, the machinery connects to the nociceptors and pings them with electrical shocks at irregular intervals with various charges, causing the constant pain described by those who have undergone the process. When the subject enters combat, these mechanical implants respond by flooding their body with adrenaline and dopamine, as well as small amounts of serotonin. The result is a frenzied melee powered by a killing instinct where neurochemicals completely override what little higher brain function remains. For some, this process can be all-consuming and they lose all higher brain function and instead are driven solely by neurochemical instinct, hence the term lost to the nails. Ultimately, the combination of this crude lobotomy and mechanical implantation results in a warrior in near constant pain, only to feel temporary relief when they enter close combat. There is little to no higher brain function, and as a result, those with these implants are devoid of what once made them human, slaves instead to pain and slaughter. This combination then of subjugation, self-annihilation and physical mutilation for me helps cement the process of adopting the butcher's nails as the most horrific aspect of the 41st millennium. It is not an enemy that can be fought. It is not a curse that can be prayed away. It is not the genocide of exterminatus which at least offers a swift death. The butcher's nails are a Damocles sword that instead of merely reminding their victim of their mortality, instead poison and accelerate it by erasing their very sense of self, their soul if you will, from existence. A berserker dies each time they are lost to the nails, and waking up must feel like watching your own funeral. There is no rest, no hope for tranquility, no chance for even a moment of silence. There is only the perpetual tick-tock of their soul disintegrating.